Viceroy. The Viceroy's personality and attitude. So I was thinking about this today in the fact of he always just has something he does, like runs his hand through his hair or something like that, that transfers from his good to his bad personality. And we want to do something along the lines of he plays into the fact that he doesn't know what's going on. It's kind of like a, oh, you guys are calling on me now? Like, fuck. Okay, I guess I'll fucking do it. You know? And then he comes up with, like, massive, insane strategic plan to basically completely overwhelm the enemy in every case. Essentially. And then he'll go back to, like, you know, don't bother me with this shit. And he'll be like, oh, remember that plan? What plan? Oh, the plan we just had. I don't know shit. And it's like, the fact that he forgets is kind of like a play out where it's like, everyone's just like, okay, well, he just doesn't want to have to deal with this shit. So it's like, this is his way of telling us that he doesn't want to deal with shit. He just wants to be like a fucking noob running around getting himself in trouble and shit. But he doesn't want the responsibility until it has to fall on him. And then when he turns, you look back on it and you go, wait, what? Like, how did I not see it? It was right in front of me. That's what I really want. Or people will be like, man, there's something about the Viceroy. I don't know, man. This shit is fuzzed. That's where it's like, I gotta get parts of the story in line with what's in the first book and what's in the second book, as far as, like, reveals for stuff. Because at the end of the first book is when the Warriors of Light reveal themselves, and then they take them back to the dome at the beginning of the first book, or the beginning of the second book, and they are now, like, in the dark underground of the guild, the, black market / criminal side, essentially, being facilitated by the Lost Bloodline, which the 13, welcome, how is it going, good sir? Welcome to the stream. We didn't really get to do any notes, so we're kind of doing notes now on what we feel the main points of foreshadowing are, and it's the Viceroy and his personality and attitude, in his, like, changing between his, like, good and bad personality. So you're going to be asking questions the entire book about, like, what the fuck is wrong with the Viceroy, and it's just going to be like, he just doesn't want to deal with shit, so he just pretends that it doesn't exist, even though he doesn't actually remember, because that's not the same personality. And then the other thing is how Husai is the chosen one by him being human and showing there's no other humans. Well, I mean, the blatant one, Fafnir the dragon in chapter 1. And that is, like, the one piece of knowledge that the reader and Husai have that no one else has. That, oh, holy shit, they're actual, like, not just dragons, like, the house-sized dragons. We're talking city, multiple city. Like, the width of Fafnir's body is the length of, like, a normal aircraft carrier. Which I could be wrong, but I think that's 600 meters? Okay, it's only actually 330. It's 1,000 feet, which is about 330 meters. So maybe Fafnir's actually even bigger than that. Like, what's the length of the world's largest aircraft carrier? Oh, that is the one. That is the world's largest. 333 meters. I think Fafnir's a little bit bigger than that, actually. I guess I was downplaying it. But yeah, so, of course you know that Fafnir's there, so it's not really, well, foreshadowing. It's just kind of exposition at the beginning. But you don't really see anything. Like, you literally, it's just an eye and fire. But you can put two and two together based upon what Torg said. The only question is who the fuck killed him at the end. I guess another blatant is the one who kills Torg. Who is it? Who gave Husai the calm pearl? The fall or the exile of the Adventurers Guild, the political strife in Chapter 2. So I'm just thinking of anything else for any of the other characters. I mean, you could even say the names of the cities based on the Final Fantasy avatars and elements dictate the environment of that city. Any other foreshadowing in the book? I mean, like, I guess, like, Gaia's connection to Husai and the dragons. Because the dragons are eventually going to become allies. So there has to be some sort of switchover moment where everything kind of gets flipped on its head during the battle against Fafnir. And whether that has something to do with Gaia, or that's just like... Because the whole point is that Fafnir is testing the adventurers to see if they're powerful enough to ally with them to go up and fight the monarch. But I think that's pretty good for, like, at least for at the beginning, what we're trying to foreshadow, at least for the first half of the book. So, let's see if we hold up.
Oh wow, this Jedi stuff is hard, Obi-Wan. Oh yeah, it's hard work, Anakin. I mean, it's really costing me an arm and a leg. A what? An arm and a leg. Oh, yeah. Imagine that. This video is brought to you by the faithful and wondrous minions of Supreme Leader Mishka over on Patreon. If you'd like to join the Mishkarian Legion for just a couple of dollars a month, then there's a link in the description. So, foreshadowing. A little bit of a different video, because unlike magic systems, final battles, or chosen ones, foreshadowing isn't so much an element of the story as it is a tool in the crafting of a story. And most people have a pretty good idea on what foreshadowing is, but knowing where it's necessary and how to do it effectively is another question entirely. So that's what we'll be focusing on today. Briefly, what is foreshadowing? In its simplest form, foreshadowing is using scenes earlier on in the story to build anticipation and understanding of events later in the story. In Avengers Age of Ultron, Tony Stark uses the phrase "peace in our time" to describe what Ultron could do for the world. This is a reference to Neville Chamberlain's words, who in history's worst case of cringing at your past self said after striking a deal with Hitler he had achieved peace in our time. That let's just say, Blitzkrieg! Those who knew that would anticipate not peace, but a war unlike the world has ever seen. But foreshadowing isn't just an interesting creative detail readers can look back on. It can help writers structure their story, set the tone, and have more satisfying payoffs for the reader, all of which we'll be getting to later on. First, we should go through the different ways that you can foreshadow. As always, spoilers. There are any number of ways to foreshadow, but we'll be focusing on 6 extremely common ones. The pre-scene, irregular description, Chekhov's gun, symbolism, irregular action, and prophecy.
Okay. Pull this shit up. So this is our take on it. Let's see how we can do this. So 1, pre-scenes. Ooh, I love that. Irregular description. That depicts, like, perfectly what we want to do with Husai. Like, absolutely beautifully. Irregular. Because it's like, it makes the reader ask the question of, why did you use that kind of language? And then they basically latch on to that. I know he's talked about the Chekhov's gun before, but I wasn't really, like, I don't remember that shit. Symbolism is going to be huge because of plays and, like, the poems and songs about, like, the past wars and stuff like that, and history is kind of repeating itself, so it's like not knowing about the past but having these essences of the past kind of thrown at you gives this idea of like circular pattern of history, you know. And the symbolism. Well, for instance, like what the tree stands for. Because at the beginning, the tree stands for, like, life, liberty, and justice. Isn't that kind of gun that is shown on a wall that later is used in the end? I'm not quite sure, 13, maybe. I mean, that sounds pretty foreshadowy indeed, with a specific, like, object. And, like, for instance, with the Warriors of Light, how they're kind of, or Zayd, for instance, even Zayd's death, because of him trying so hard to go, and Husai saying that you're going to be completely fine, even though you kind of see how the strife against the Adventurers Guild is in the tree, and you kind of wonder to yourself, well, actually, is Zayd even safe inside of the tree? No, he wasn't. He wasn't. Irregular action, which would be the Viceroy, and his actions towards things. 6 is prophecy, and the prophecy is Gaia's will. Because Gaia has a plan that she's trying to enact. She has multiple plans, but it's like, kind of, stop the Monarch, use the Monarch's technology, get rid of the shards, stop the corruption. But if that doesn't work, then, you know, use the people to fight against the Monarch and the dragons to fight against the Monarch. If that doesn't work, use yourself to fight against the Monarch, destroy the planet, and attack Anima yourself as like a final last resort after everything's completely fucked. So the prophecy of the destruction of the world that Husai sees is basically the inevitable end that is going to happen. But in the second book, when it shows all of the backstory as a play for Anima and how Anima got the way that he was, because Anima's backstory is his mother planet was just chilling. He's at the point, planets make moons, moons are their children. So Moon gets to a certain point in its life where it's large enough where it can become its own planet, which would be like the idea of puberty. And then the mother planet sends the moon off to become its own planet to make its own moons. And, like, right on the cusp of this happening, an evil celestial being, which is there's good celestial beings that don't break out of their shell because they care about the life that they've basically injected their consciousness into. And bad celestial beings just hunger and care for destroying things. Because there's a hunger inside of all of the celestial beings for them to gain more consciousness. But the good ones subdue that urge and basically keep silent and just nurture the beings around them with their own consciousness. Well, 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 isn't it that time again, huh? Yes, Eggy Mayo, indeed it is that time. Welcome, welcome. Today's going to be an epic stream because it's my weekend. I don't work tomorrow. Yay! Let's go fucking hard, boys! Anyways, so a bad celestial being comes by and completely devours Anima's mom. Well, not completely, but, like, you know, utterly destroys her. And then Chekhov does great short stories. I'll have to check them out, Eggy. But Anima is like a raging beast of hatred, anger. Basically, he's like a 14-year-old that just saw his mom basically eaten alive in front of him. He's kind of like Eren at the beginning of Attack on Titan. Only he just goes like full chaotic berserk mode, and then he devours the rest of his mom that the dark being didn't get, and then he swears to himself that he'll get revenge no matter what. And the only way to get revenge is to devour absolutely everything in existence until he's the only thing left. And that will assure that he has gotten his vengeance. And so he starts to consume everything around him, and eventually he starts to consume suns, and now he's so large he even can consume black holes. He's like a galactic black hole that eats other black holes, and he's coming for everything in existence. And he realized that he would run out of energy before he consumed absolutely everything in existence based upon like his calculations on what kind of life is out there. So he sent shards of himself out into existence to attach to worlds to infect their inhabitants in order to basically cause them to procreate, expand their population, and evolve their species. So by the time he came to eat them, they would have an abundance of life. And infusing his knowledge of the universe and technology and everything into those creatures, allowing them to... Sorry, whoops, my bad. Allowing them to facilitate this kind of life. And then, you know, he has enough power to devour absolutely everything. And then Gaia has to stop him. So, in this case, if what your guys... Levi! Welcome. If what you guys are saying about Chekhov's gun, then Chekhov's gun would be the 100-Year Quest dungeon. Because it's either going to be a Thomas or like something. But either way, it houses one of the pieces of the diamond weapon. So it's like maybe like the emerald weapon itself is like the foreshadowing with Chekhov's gun, because they're going to use that in the end as their main weapon, just like the Monarch used it to pull the moon out of the sky. Well, they're going to use it to infuse Gaia's essence into the sun and shoot it at Anima. So that weapon and that idea is very important, because it's going to come back and be like one of their saving graces at the end, essentially. Yeah, okay, so we got this set up. Let's get into it.
See. So firstly, the pre-scene. This is where a smaller version of a much more important moment happens earlier on. In Stranger Things, one of the opening scenes depicts the main characters playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons.
To the stream.
You're back, dude.
You heard him. I'll pick you up at 5. Be
Oh, shit.
outside. I
Oh, I will be there.
Baylor and Demon, thank you for the raid. How was your stream, good sir? Welcome. We are discussing foreshadowing and how it relates to my book and world building.
Daddy's home.
Well, I slowly devour bagel bites because I didn't eat. Thanks for the follow. Yeah, man, no worries. I'm trying to spread the love around, you know? Everyone. There you go. See, Eggy's got it. He's got the shout out. Goat Simulator. Hell yeah, dude. So yeah, everyone go give Baylor and Demon a follow. Yeah, so my new thing is I haven't been interacting with the community as much as I should, and I've been basically restricting myself specifically to the reading and writing section because I just wanted to get to know everyone around here. But I pretty much have already done that, so I'm trying to expand outwards now using, Twitter as a mechanism to find people, essentially. So spent like a bunch of time at work today just going through Twitter and looking at a bunch of posts and shit like that and following some people when I got home because I had a huge list. So I recognize your name, so welcome. But yeah, oh yes, what is the talent? 78%. Ooh, not so good. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not so good. Let's do genre. Oh, I fucking forgot to set it up for Twitch again. Welcome to the Atox Nation. Nice. Genre. Fantasy. A mage discover magical creature, unleash ancient spirit. Ooh, that sounds like a good story. Alright, here we go.
In the game, they have to fight the Demogorgon, an incredibly powerful monster from another
This
dimension.
was great
and
foreshadowing,
man.
man.
Fighting a monster from another dimension that they call the Demogorgon. A pre-scene foreshadows a later plot event by mimicking what happens on a much smaller scale.
It's kind of like that with the Emerald Weapon. Or at least even like near the beginning and stuff like that. Even though you're fighting the exact same thing, it's to show the scale in difference between the party that tried it 50 years ago and the party now. Because they're gonna walk in there and they're going to fucking annihilate the Emerald Weapon. Just to show the power difference between the people that literally went in as 75 and came out as 15 versus their group, which goes in at like 40 or 50, and they don't even have to use their strongest people. They just fucking annihilate the Emerald Weapon. And you kind of have a thought of, was the Emerald Weapon weakened or something like that? But it's like, nah, man, they're just overpowered now. And then they fully activate the city, and it's either that's Atomus or that leads them to find Atomus. And then from there, they basically have a new home base to work with that replaces the tree as their home base. But that's the idea for the foreshadowing for the first chapter. As well as, like, it's also foreshadowing what titles are, and characters will gain titles as they go through it, which is basically when you're in an extreme situation, it's like an awakening moment where you get some sort of ability granted to you by Gaia through your soul. And, like, the characters that, like, the time mage at the beginning of the book, in chapter 1, it doesn't ever say it, but it's like character titles, or they're like, they say that they titled. So it's like the character's just standing there, and then all of a sudden it's like the character falls to the ground, like drenched in sweat, and it's like, I titled! And everyone's like, oh shit, something happened. Because his ability is basically to go back in time 1 minute. So something extremely fucked up happened in that minute to make him go back a minute and say, and his, like, each ability has a cooldown based upon what kind of ability it is. And Aetharg's ability, which resets other people's titles, has a 1-year cooldown. The Time Mage's title has a 10-year cooldown. You can only use it after 10 years. So you do not want to waste that shit. That is a life or death fucking ability. So everyone's like instantly locked in as soon as they find out that that character titled. And even with all of that, they still only managed to save 15 people. Even with their best defenses holding their maximum power and not even fucking around. Giving it everything they had. Everyone titles, reset the titles, fucking title again, and they still get annihilated. And then later on in the book, the characters come in and just shit all over it. It's like, you guys were level 80? We're level 99, bitch. Alright, heading out. It's 2 a.m. Hell yeah, Baylor Demon. Have a good sleep, good sir. Thank you again for the raid and hanging out. I will check in on your stream next time you're streaming, because I have my weekend now, so I can just kind of hop in whenever. And I'm usually always fucking awake, because I can't sleep, because fuck sleep. But I wish you sweet dreams, good sir. Take care. I'm trying to think of anything else. I mean, infighting between the Beastmen, and, like, the Beastmen rising up, because, like, hey, Valium boy, how's it going? Welcome, welcome. How are we? We are good.
Cluing the reader into the type of tension to expect. Secondly, irregular description. This is where the author tends to highlight something that would not usually be examined, or give it more detail than would usually be given. The most obvious example that most people would know of is Harry's scar. In the opening pages of The Philosopher's Stone, not the Sorceress, Rowling writes that the only thing Harry liked about his own appearance was a very thin scar on his forehead that was shaped like a bolt of lightning. He had had it as long as he could remember, and the first question he could ever remember asking his Aunt Petunia was how he had gotten it. Normally, a scar by itself isn't that remarkable, we all have them, but this irregular description signals to the reader that something mysterious happened in his past,
Oh, well, if
but
you're
it
taking
also
a
foreshadows
vacation,
that the
man,
tension in
good
the
luck,
story
good
will
luck.
rise from the relationship he has with Voldemort.
I'm glad to be the,
where we see
you know,
and hear everything
the
about
final
it, but
stop
not
on
all
the
of it
way
matters. Writing
before
forces
then.
the author to make conscious choices about what to include and what not to include.
What?
This means that to have a cohesive story that
23rd,
narrows the
I'll keep
reader's
that in
focus
mind.
to what the author wants them to see,
Take care, good
every
sir.
paragraph must serve a purpose in the narrative. Giving an irregular description to something sets it apart as an important focal point for the reader, signaling that something will
Who
come
saw
up
his
in a
body?
breakdown of the details of how to
What he
write
looks
an
like.
irregular description, whereas ordinary elements are often described in a
WrestleMania
list,
week
the
is coming
irregular
up?
objects
Nice.
should contrast by being set apart in its own paragraph or sentence. The closer it is to that list, the clearer the contrast will be. Secondly, having a character interact with the object in a way that they don't interact with other things helps set it apart. Maybe they tell a story about it, get more worried about losing it, or have conflicting feelings about it. Thirdly, Chekhov's gun. This is probably the most common and important types of foreshadowing to have in a story. It comes from a writer named Pavlovich Chekhov, who noted that if in Act 1 you have a gun on the wall, then it must fire in the last act. A quote from screenwriter David Trottier in Snyder's book Save the Cat captures this principle pretty well. To paraphrase, a cup of coffee isn't important enough to describe, unless there's poison in it. Chekhov's gun is something introduced in the story earlier on to let the reader know that it will be consequential later in the story. This is a specific thing, usually an object, but it can be anything that will return in the story. This
The
is
Emerald
extremely
Weapon.
common in games where you discover a specific
Undertale.
item or ability that doesn't seem
Undertale's such a
particularly
good game.
until further down the track. In the game Undertale, you can buy food from a spider bake sale near the beginning and use that later
Total
on
of
to get
23
out of a
shows
fight
to
with the
watch.
spider
Damn.
This item
That's
seems
insane.
relatively useless at first, but it foreshadows the meeting with the spiders and the type of game that Undertale is trying to be, one where killing those in your way isn't the only option. Fundamentally, if something is unusually featured in Act 1, then it must come back in Act 3. Chekhov's guns are often important in creating satisfying payoffs and resolving conflict, particularly in science fiction or fantasy.
True.
By setting
Have
up
a
an
great
element
stream.
of
Hell yeah,
system,
brother. Thank you.
technology,
Good
or
sir.
otherwise
Take care.
beforehand, the
Thank
reader
you very
understands
much.
the capabilities it has in the story. This means it doesn't feel like a wizard did it when it's used later on to resolve conflict. Fourthly, symbolism. Foreshadowing can be anywhere on the spectrum between obvious and subtle, whereas pre-scenes and Chekhov's guns tend to be on the more obvious side to the...
Okay, well this one is... I'm thinking about this in the symbolism factor of the explaining of what the tablet is. Because Husai is specifically told to find a tablet. But this is where use of language and how language works and its interpretation is very important in understanding that I'm trying to, without telling the people, show them. And for instance, the greatest example is two characters talking to each other who are different classes. Let's say two mages talking to each other. They're going to use, like, specific jargon, right? That has to do with that class. And then they go to talk to, like, a warrior, and the warrior has specific jargon. Now, technically, they're both speaking their own jargon to each other because of the way that language works. It's basically transmitted through consciousness through intent. So it's just what you intend to say. So the meaning is interpreted by the person, not the person sending it. So, to you, you're talking in mage jargon, and the other person's talking in mage jargon. But to the other person, you're talking in warrior jargon, and they're talking in warrior jargon. But Husai has a, like, conflict with this. So if a warrior is talking to a mage, in Husai's mind, because you're seeing it in... Maybe I'm too old for the pacing of this video. Is too fast for me. I mean, all of these videos, like, you gotta think, this is a seven-year-old video. Like, this is the very, like, first videos he ever did on his channel. So this is all, like, very out of date, essentially. But it's still, like, good, right? So most of them are just kind of thrown together, I'd say, in a quick-paced manner that's meant to be paused like this and kind of, like, flesh your ideas out while you're going through it, so you have notes on it. And that's why, at the end of the day, he wrote 3 books on this series that he did. But now I can't remember what I was saying about Husai. His type of language description. Communication. How communication works. Between a warrior and a mage, to Husai, they're both speaking different jargon to each other. And this is one question that Husai asks people, but it's like there's a mental block from Gaia from them trying to understand it. And the time when he breaks down and talks to Hildebrandt about it is like their bonding moment of like him revealing all the things that basically he's been hiding, and the fact that she thinks that he's basically this arrogant asshole who's been playing at being an adventurer because he's bored of being a bureaucrat. But he's actually trying to show people, like, he's the leader on the front lines. Like, he's still got the spirit in him to be the adventurer. He's not just the bureaucrat. And the way that language is used, so Husai is going to be told to find a tablet. And through the language, the person just means, like, information that is preserved in a physical form. Which, to Husai, is a tablet. But what they're actually looking for is what the beastmen use, which are these different braids with different knots of different like fabrics, and they basically, this is the tablet, it's the writing, but no one really knows what it is, and the only person who has any kind of idea is Varius, because he loves studying the beastmen and he loves culture, so he's been collecting them. So they've had them the entire time underneath their eyes, but they didn't know because of the different types of wording. And that's the kind of like, oh, for fuck's sakes, we had it the whole time kind of moments that, you know, reveal through how language is used. Same with like finding the Warriors of Light. And it's like, Zayd technically found the Warriors of Light, but Husai wouldn't listen to him because Husai didn't give him enough credit.
The reader, symbolism.
Oh, and another thing is I forgot the foreshadowing in the prologue when Husai literally says to Zayd, because Zayd's like bored of like cataloging new adventurers, so he wanted to do like, you know, studying like the higher rank ones. And Husai's like, you know, follow an adventurer from its beginnings. And that gives Zayd an idea. And he's like, wait a second. I don't think so, because he has a photographic memory. That's why he can piece things together so well. And he's like, oh, shit. That actually makes a lot of sense. And he goes back and he looks over it, and basically there's 4 people who are pretending to be 50 different people. And Zayd's noticed a super weird pattern across these 50 like top rank adventurers that some of the missions and quests that they've gone on just don't add up, like for their strength level and stuff like that. And then he goes back and like scans through them and finds out that like through an interrogation of all the data, he finds out that like half of these adventurers are actually dead. And these are like stolen IDs. And then he places like the graph together and like forms up like the pattern between the characters of being like, which, like, who are these guys actually? And through like how they choose quests and the size of the party, he finds out it's 4 of the same people pretending to be a bunch of different people. And they are way off the scale. When you eliminate those other 50 people, this is where they are on the scale of strength, and this is like the next adventurers to those 4. Like, they are so far ahead of the other people that it's so like obvious that something fucked up is going on. And then he tries to tell Husai this, but Husai won't listen. So it's like the very first like dialogue basically in conversation in the prologue, chest height and head height very different. True, Levi. True. Technically octopies don't have chests though. You need a third point of reference for power scaling illustrations to make sense. Well, I'm like, let's say this is 50, right? This is the 5th ranking adventurer. The strongest adventurer next to those 4. And those 4 are up here. So they're like twice as powerful as the next most powerful adventurer. That's fucking powerful. Like, that's off the scale insanely powerful. Like, we would rank, like, the entire, like, Husai's entire party, like, here. Because they're not active adventurers. But when him and all of his old buddies from all the main leaders, they're about here, compared to, like, the fifth is, like, here, and then the Warriors of Light are, like, here. And then Husai's party basically gets boosted to, like, here once they get relic and armor and weapons, because that's what makes the scaling so different, is the Warriors of Light are using magically enchanted, fully, like, intact, millennia old, basically marine space suits from, like, Warhammer, like Space Marine suits. Like, these things were meant to, like, the octopi that wore them were meant to survive the pressures at the bottom of the ocean. So it's like, it's not just like, oh, this is a really strong metal because it's like, oh, you can, it's like from space. It's like, no, it's meant to literally hold the weight of the ocean over top of it. So it's extremely powerful armor. And made from a material that's literally derived from, like, a symbiosis of, not algae, coral that grow at the bottom of the ocean. And it's, like, infused with Gaia's shell. And that's what, it, like, basically grows in fissures across the bottom of the ocean. And the octopi use that as, like, their main, like, metal. It's basically like diamond, probably harder than diamond, because it's meant to withstand the pressure at the bottom of the ocean. But, and then their weapons are the same way. So it's like the reason why, and they're genetically enhanced because they're first Money25 or Money 25. Welcome. How's it going, good sir? Welcome to the stream. How are you? So I guess symbolism in conversation over, like, Husai's ignorance towards characters and misunderstanding between things, allowing him to overlook, which is the idea that he, like, people can lie about what happened. Like, Husai can interrogate two different people, essentially, and have two different, completely different stories of the same event. And that kind of shit is going to happen. That's why I want it to be in first person from Husai. So I can give all of this random stuff that you build up because of the other characters. And then Husai seeing what the actual truth is based upon, like, the inference between each, like, combining each of the characters' descriptions of things. And since he's very scientific and logical, he can just kind of sort things out and set everything up. And be like, okay, that's how it's supposed to be. And that's kind of what breaks him when Zayd dies. Is him looking back and being like, I should have known. Like, it was staring at me in the face, and I should have known. So I think we got a lot going for foreshadowing, actually. Because I was sitting here at the beginning of the stream being like, fuck, man. Okay. What are we actually doing for foreshadowing in the book?
To be a lot more subtle. A clear and one of my favorite examples of this is the opening scene in A Game of Thrones, where the Starks chance across a direwolf who died killing a stag, the two respective symbols of House Stark and House Baratheon.
Mm-hmm.
The mutual death of these two animals is a symbol that causes the reader to anticipate a coming war that would not just engulf both houses, but result in the deaths of nearly all of House Stark and House Baratheon. Symbols can either be internal or external, external being symbols that we use like the figure 8 being infinity, and internal internal symbols being ones from the world you've built, like Starks being direwolves. There are extremely obvious and even heavy-handed symbols like how storm clouds equals sad and crows equal dead, but it can be more interesting to use subtle symbols that can be interpreted in a number of different ways. External symbols are useful when an author wishes to more clearly foreshadow future events, while internal symbols may be more subtle or creative. And one of the more effective forms of symbolism foreshadowing is a motif, which often uses the repetition of a symbol throughout the story, and it's that repetition that makes it both noticeable and effective.
And the one thing for that, which I will actually write down because I totally forgot about, is the guild insignia. Nobody knows where the guild insignia came from. They only know that one sword represents the guild, one sword represents the government, and one sword represents the tree and the monarchy. But everyone just assumed that that's where it originated from. But that's actually not true. It was actually like the peace symbol originally when the octopi used it. So it kind of transformed over time. But it was originally something along the lines of this. And then it turned into a shield with the 3 swords. So when they're fighting the like octopi in Garuda, this symbol is painted on everything, and Husai compares it to the guild insignia and says how awfully familiar it is. So we do have symbolism. This is why I do this, because it's like I have the idea in my head, I just don't have it categorized and like Peacebringers. That's the foreshadowing, because you find out that those are actually the good octopi. And there's just no way to convince other people other than a war. Oh, for fuck's sakes, Valium boy. I need to put a sound effect on there to be like, get your bitch-ass glasses off, you piece of shit fucking retard. Yeah, that's right, bitch. Now you can't fucking see. I'm just gonna clip that. Clip! Alright, clip that. Now we can just go back to that and use that as a voiceover later. So yeah, I can't see shit. Oh shit, Valium boy, you're right. I hate this thing. Why does it reset? Okay, you're good now. My bad. Every time. I'm fucking retarded. Every time. Activated, motherfucker. Well, activate your mom.
In Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea, he repeatedly compares his character to Christ, a symbol of self-sacrifice, to foreshadow that in the end, he would sacrifice his own life for others. Fifthly, irregular action. This is where a character acts in a way that is inconsistent with their characterization before.
The Viceroy. He is full of this shit.
What the heck, bro? Take a bit on a brick.
Wait, what? What do you mean a bit on a brick? Oh, you mean my jaw? Yeah, it's just my jaw.
Causing the reader to wonder why. A great example of this is in The Lord of the Rings, where the otherwise very likable, bubbly and friendly Bilbo suddenly becomes agitated and angry when Gandalf asks him to leave the One Ring behind. This out-of-character moment foreshadows that the tension will come from various characters struggling with the One Ring, and foreshadows the greater evil of the Dark Lord Sauron himself. The irregular action tactic is most commonly used in the mystery threads of a narrative, where a character acts in a certain way that is only explained later on after the mystery is revealed. And sixthly, There's also prophecies or visions or dreams, which are technically foreshadowing, but they're definitely on the more obvious side of the spectrum.
Very obvious, but that's the whole point, right? Same thing with the tablet. That's
OMG,
the prophecy.
I remember this shit 20 years then I didn't date that and still don't want.
Wait, what? You don't like bagel bites? Dude, bagel bites are the fucking shit, bro. This shit's the best.
Bro, it's morning for me, aha, P-I-Z-A-Z-A.
Then that's fucking pizza. About pizza I would fucking have. Never had bagel bites.
Pizzazz.
Take a bagel, butter it, put on some marinara,
STFU, that's
Put on
pizza
some
and
cheese.
continue.
put on some bacon bits, maybe cut up some ham, some pepperoni, you know? Be fancy about it. Throw cheese on that, throw her in the oven for like 4.5 minutes,
We
3.5
don't even got
minutes.
bagels here.
You don't have bagels?
You can stop here, still disgusting, sorry bro X.
Okay then. I mean, to each their own. I mean, some people don't like steak. It doesn't work on Twitch. I haven't gotten around to it, Levi. I have to redo the entire thing. I was just testing it with
I
bot
want to
rates.
drive you crazy today X.
Damn it, Valiant boy. It's my own fault. Okay. Okay. So prophecies. They're technically being told directly to you, but it's just like the idea of a prophecy, except normally people do a prophecy in a way that it's worded weird and it's super vague. The only thing that's vague about this is find the Warriors of Light and they have a tablet. Get that tablet. It's like, okay, well, who are the Warriors of Light? The strongest among you. He's always like, okay. I guess we'll leave that to Zaid. And bingo. Husai has a reason to leave Zaid behind. Well, I'm about to head off for my stream, and I was hoping to steal a story beforehand. Ah, here you go, Levi. I will genre, and I will fantasy you. A prince, rally, magical realm, unleash lost evil. Tablet as in device or medication? Tablet as in device of writing. But the device of writing is actually, as Husai would see it, is a like piece of stone, right? But it's actually this. How would anyone know that this is the tablet? And that's gonna have the irregular description because Varius collects these. He doesn't know what they are. He's been given them from different shamans of different beastmen and told the story that they're said to contain. But he just thinks it's, you know, like each thread is like dictated to a different story, but it's like, no, literally, if you know how they use the fabric, how they weave the fabric, how thick the fabric is, the knots, that is literally a story in words made out of string. And that's when the reveal of it, when the Warriors of Light pull it out, and Varius goes, hold on, and like, the Warriors of Light are basically explaining that this is what, like, the Beastmen used to communicate during the Beastmen Wars. Like, this is actual writing, and they know how to translate it, because they've been translating them, because they work with the underground, and the underground part of the guild doesn't ignore this kind of shit because they're very into that stuff. And since, like, the technology that's down there can reveal this, these things actually become very important on the black market. So that's the reason why the Warriors of Light have it. And they just have to find the specific one that tells, basically, the tale of the monarch and the fall, and, like, the entire history. Which is the tablet that Husai was told to find. But you would never think it's a bunch of strings that have been, like, described multiple times, showed multiple times, explained multiple times, but just the connection has never been made. So I think we'll call glasses there. Because I didn't actually look at the time, but...
Few characters doubt the importance of a prophecy, and even if they do, the reader certainly doesn't. So saying, "and one of you shall die watching communist propaganda," is less foreshadowing and more setting up a clear direction for the plot. But there are good examples of this working, like in Shakespeare's play, where the idea that Macbeth believes he cannot be killed by a man born of a woman plays a crucial role in his decisions throughout the story. Though we discussed the disadvantages
Wait,
and
I saw
advantages
Tolkien there, and I'm like, wait, what?
and his decisions throughout the story.
Interestingly, Tolkien took issue with the prophecy that nobody born of a woman will ever harm Macbeth. This is because he was killed by Macduff, who we find out was born of a cesarean and thus didn't count as being born of a woman. This was a major influence on his decision to make the Witch King, who about it was prophesied that not by the hand of man shall he fall, killed by a woman. He felt Shakespeare cheated the audience of a satisfying resolution to that prophecy, and then gave his own. Yeah, because I would just immediately assume, yeah, so a woman's gonna kill him.
Though we discussed the disadvantages and advantages of prophecies more generally in the on-writing video on Chosen Ones, so if you
True.
want to know more about that, then I recommend you go check that.
Yeah, we just
Other ways
watched
to
it.
foreshadow include simple phraseology, like when Catelyn Stark states in A Game of Thrones, sometimes she felt as though her heart had turned to stone, foreshadowing the appearance of Lady Stoneheart. Otherwise, irrationally worrying or joking about something happening, like in Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Or maybe they'll unleash a crazy amazing spirit attack on the Fire Nation. Or wisdom, that's good too.
and lo and behold, next episode, Fish Giant Karate Chop. But broadly, these tend to be clever turns of phrase that a reader will only notice on a second reading. There are any number of ways to foreshadow effectively, some more subtle than others, and some more creative than others. Which style you use will be determined by the effect you want to have on the reader. Now let's talk
True.
through foreshadowing and three things: structure, tone, and payoff. Firstly, narrative structure. Foremost, foreshadowing allows the author to emphasize certain dramatic threads in the story, and this emphasis creates an expectation for the reader about what the important dramatic events in the story will be, whether they're a divorce, a murder, or a nuclear war. Now, these dramatic moments typically happen at the end of the first, second, or
Now, the main thing I'd say for this would be, like, the Viceroy saying that beastmen are able to become adventurers, and the reveal of the Lamia, beastmen on the council. And then that leads into the Adventurer Guild being exiled after the fall of Garuda.
third act. In The Dark Knight, Harvey Dent says this famous
Oh, and then that also leads into the ex-viceroy who stepped down, who's the member of Husai's party, betraying them. So, like, that first scene has two things. It's the foreshadowing of the Beastmen, and it's also the foreshadowing of the Viceroy himself. So, it doesn't go in the book if it doesn't have at least two reasons, narratively, why it should be there. That's usually how I structure everything, and then everything threads together because of that.
line at the
And usually two is the minimum, bare minimum for something. But I think this also foreshadows like the strife in the tree, like the civil strife between people that don't care and the people that are like, no, we don't want Beastmen to be able to come into the tree, and the fanatics that think that like this is the espionage.
Traveler 86 is now following. Thank you for
Traveler
following
86.
Traveler 86.
Welcome,
I hope you are
welcome.
enjoying the stream. Less than 3 plus 1.
Thank you so much for the follow, good sir.
Mr. Arch Commander Consummate and thinks he'd be a perfect match for us.
Let's go, boys.
Are you smoking?
Who?
You.
So I definitely
Why?
think
Why are you smoking?
the marketing and
What?
promoting
When did you
has
start smoking?
worked, because I just literally started,
So you
and
have
you're the
been
two.
lying.
Just returning the love.
Makes
Hell
sense
yeah,
that
brother.
you
Thank you, good sir.
pine-scented hairspray.
I was like, I recognize your name from
Three-pack a
earlier.
day, voice.
You're on that list of people that I followed today, and went to everyone's stuff and went, hello, welcome. Because I kind of, like, I'm still at it. Nice! So everyone, go follow Traveler86. Go check out his stream and follow
Thank
him,
you for
good
redeeming
people.
chair dance.
Oh, of
Hitox
course.
will now dance for you. Please fully enjoy this immersive experience.
18 hours so far? Damn, hell yeah, brother. It's my weekend, so hopefully we'll do a 10-hour stream today. Oh, I blurred out the camera. Hold on, let me get that back. Bring it back. Bring it back, boys. I'm just gonna move back because I keep fucking up. 10-hour. Ooh, woo. Yeah, Valiant boy.
Keep dancing, bitch, it ain't over yet.
Will be the best 10 hours? Hell yeah, brother. We going good.
You did good, you can rest now, babe.
Thank you, Valiant boy. I appreciate your interactions. You are the king of keeping this shit alive.
No.
True, Valiant boy, true. We don't
are
listen to
kings.
her. We are kings. Aha. We are all legend. We are all the pillars that we need now. The community is
Me Muffin,
grown,
Eggy, Levi,
guys.
Cuckhair.
Yeah. True. True. I think you forgot one, Valiant boy. His name's Valiant boy.
Bro LMAOI was searching for the last XD, that's me LMAO.
True.
Beginning.
No
You
joke.
either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
The viewer didn't know who, where, when, why, or how it would come to be, but this line created an expectation that this idea would be central to the development of the tension in the story, which it did at the end of the second act when Harvey Dent became Two-Face. It foreshadowed one of the major dramatic events that the story is structured around. The best way to put it I've found is that foreshadowing shows the reader the shape of what is to come, but not precisely what
True.
happens. It
Yes,
acts as
that's a great way of
connective tissue
saying
in the
it.
narrative, linking the first, second, and third acts by creating an expectation for the reader of the dramatic moments that
So
take
Joker
place
Highlight
in
on
each of them.
Subway
A
and
story
Murray
will feel
Screen.
more cohesive when the reader anticipates
So
what could
iconic.
happen beforehand. Though it is
True.
crucial to note, this does not mean that they know what will happen. This means that they know where the tension will come from in the story, whether it be in a relationship breakdown, a mystery being solved, or Putin arriving with an army of bears. Foreshadowing guides the reader's experience. Secondly, tone. Foreshadowing allows an author to lay the foundations for a shift in tone that happens later in the story. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, one of the opening lines is,
Okay, so for this, cheers, mate. Always the noob. Welcome, welcome. How's it going? Welcome to the stream. How are you? We are discussing foreshadowing. So, for the shifting of the tone, it's like in the prologue, tree equals paradise. First chapter to third chapter, tree equals unstable. Chapter 8 to chapter 10, actually chapter 11, tree equals enemy. And it's like through this
Always
period,
_D_noob is now following.
I go by
Thank you
newbie
for
and just
following.
pop
Always
over to follow
_D
and help.
_noob.
You're a
I
mate
hope
of
you are enjoying
travelers?
the stream.
Hell yeah, dude. Do you
Welcome to
stream
the
as well?
He used to Arch Commander Consummate and thinks he'd be a perfect match for us.
I'm not that interested. Are you smoking?
Who?
You.
Why?
What, why? Are you smoking?
Maybe.
What? When did you start smoking?
1989-ish?
So you have been lying. It all makes sense. The filled ashtrays, the burning pine-scented hairspray.
Yes, I'll see it.
Here we go,
First
guys.
three
Go over
pack
there
a
and give the
day,
guy a
boys.
follow. Thank you, good sir. I really appreciate it. Spread the love, spread the joy, guys. So it's like in the prologue, the tree is like basically seen as a paradise by Husai. Then in the first to third chapter, he's like, hey, the tree is actually unstable. How did I not see this? No, mate, I don't own a PC or a console. Ah, it's all good, man. Maybe one day you might. I thought that way 10 years ago, and then I bought myself a Starforge. I mean, I don't know how old you are. I'm 33, so... And I just started streaming, like, in July, which is literally, like, around my birthday. So... I haven't even been streaming the entirety of my 33rd year. But we're getting close. We're getting freaking close, guys. It's a good time. Right, bro, enjoy. I got more zombies to kill, lol. Alright, Traveler, thank you for popping in, good sir. And hopefully everybody popped over there and gave him a follow. Spreading the love. I mean, I wasn't expecting to see, like, this large of a result within just, like, a 2 to 3 hour period. Bills in life, no extra money for luxuries. That's how I was. I have seizures, so I have epilepsy. Not triggered by visions, like sight or anything. It's sleep deprivation / like body overheating kind of issue from night sweats. But it is what it is. I pray one day you're stable enough to buy yourself a good Starforge PC. Best PCs in the universe. # no ad. It's just like... I've had absolutely no issues with it whatsoever for the entirety of... I literally got it. The day I got it, I started streaming. Because my other PC, I could barely stream Final Fantasy 11 without it lagging. So I was like, well, I need a fucking new PC. Because I technically actually, like, started. Been looking a few Apex and a few other brands. Nice. Nice. Yeah, man, there's a lot of really good ones out there. I'm just, I'm an Asmongold enjoyer, so I'm a Starforge buddy. Starforge guy. We enjoy our Roach Lord. He teaches us the ways, and we learn games. I think he means like brands for like PCs. Or do you mean what kind of games does he play, 13? Some context to that, right? Few folks told me Alien was good starter brand. That's what my buddy back where I used to live was. Like 2021, 2022. Alienware. Sick ass laptop. I can't vouch for Starforge laptops. I can only vouch for the Starforge gaming PC. And I'm utterly satisfied with, like, literally getting, like, the highest level of the cheapest one. The Horizon 2 Elite. Because I wanted AMD over NVIDIA because of the NVIDIA compatibility issues that Monster Hunter has. Because I love Monster Hunter and Monster Hunter World on my PC. Before my old other PC, I used to own a PS3. Played Fallout 3 and Skyrim, Sly Cooper, and a few other random games. Nice. Not bad. Not bad. Yeah. Well, do you enjoy storytelling? Are you a story-oriented person? Do you like world building? Do you like clashing of ideas? Do you like expanding ideas? And, you know. I'd say fantasizing about stuff, but imagining stuff. You know what I mean? Not in that way. Get your mind out of the gutter. But anyways, back to foreshadowing, because we have the shift of tone. We have the prologue, the first to third chapter, and the chapter 8 to 11. And then the breaking moment at the end of the book when the Viceroy betrays them all. Alright, let's see where we go from
scar
here.
on his forehead, which was shaped like a bolt of lightning, was burning beneath his fingers, as though someone had just pressed a white-hot wire to his skin. This is an instance of pre-scene foreshadowing, that despite the upbeat, happy beginning to the story with the Quidditch World Cup, it foreshadows a much darker tone to the story, which happens soon enough with the attack of the Death Eaters. But it also foreshadows the shift in the series more generally, as Goblet is regarded as ending with the greatest tonal shift throughout all of the books. On top of this, it's a pre-scene of one of the darkest moments in the series yet. Just as he describes his scar burning beneath his fingers, it mimics the event in the climax of the story, where Harry felt the cold tip of Voldemort's white long finger touch him, and he thought his head would burst with pain. It can be jarring for a reader to experience a dramatic shift in tone that...
Yeah, Oblivion was one of my favorite games, and Skyrim War was nice, and like in FO3, after you finish main game, world changes. Yeah. Fallout 3, yeah. I love that kind of concept. Where it's like, that's kind of how I've, like, this is a Final Fantasy based book, so literally after the attack on Garuda, when Garuda falls, and the adventurers are exiled from the tree, and Fafnir activates all the Sky Cities and pulls all the Sky Cities out of the ground, as well as the 100-year quest, it's supposed to imitate the feeling of, like, that cataclysmic change of the world. Where it's like, a whole new world has now opened up to you. Like, Cataclysm and WoW, basically. Like, rewriting the shape of the Earth. But we've kind of already done that in the pre-world, like, the old world before the moon fell out of the sky. So this would be like a secondary clash of that, just to, like, foreshadow the coming of showing that why the landscape is so fucked, because one of the irregular descriptions is the landscape, and how the landscape just does not look natural. It looks natural to the people there, but it doesn't look natural to a normal person who's reading the descriptions of it. When you look at it, you go like, what could have possibly made the landscape look like this? And it's because literally it's 4 continents smashed together because the power of the gravitic weapon that pulled the moon out of the sky collided everything. So it's like the ground is like suspiciously uneven in some areas with like extreme inclines that are clearly not mountains. They're just like protrusions out of the ground in like long lines and fissures that crack and split like trees due to like how gravity and like the curvature of the Earth splits the Earth open after it crashes together and then settles. And then, like, 600 years of shit growing over top of that and kind of evening the ground out. But it's still, like, some areas are insanely flat with, like almost square juts coming out of them and stuff like that, or, like, triangular juts. And it's, like, just the entirety of the environment described to a normal person the person would scratch their head as to why the environment looks that way. Same with, like, how the people don't know what a moon is. So it's like there's things in the book that the characters in the book
That's
have
awesome.
no
Every
idea
new
what
guys.
they
So
are.
cool. Welcome everyone.
That's awesome, everyday new guys. Yes. Valiant Boy, we are, like I said, we are going into, like, overdrive mode with now trying to engage with the community in order to expand outside of the reading and writing community into other things. Because I think we've, like, unfortunately, the reading and writing community is a pretty small community on Twitch. Usually it's only got between, like, 50 and 150 viewers. And most of those are... And if it has above that, there's, like, one Spanish channel I've seen that usually gets, like, 600 views. And then there's the ASMR chick. I can't remember her name. She does reading, ASMR, and writing. She usually gets between, like, 100 and 150. But, like, most of the channels, like, are between, like, 1 and 10 viewers. And there's, like, 12, like, let's see right now. Like, in the reading and writing category, how many people are there on Twitch? Let me... Is it going to be on here? No, this is just all... 117 viewers, all channels. Yeah, that's it. There's literally, like, one page. You can see all of the channels on one page. And this actually is, like, if anyone's in this category, this is a huge boon for the category, for the people in it, because we have such a, like, almost perfectly even split across the entire category. So it's like, the community feels really, really welcoming because we're all really small streamers. Walt, mate, GG, good stream, good stuff. I'm gonna head out. Good luck, God bless, take care. Trues, newbie, take her easy, brew. Thank you again. Hopefully we will see you again. But, you know, it is what it is, right? So there's, like, things that the reader will know that the characters in the book don't know because they're part of our world in real life, but because the book is fucked in a way from that, you know, it's like, and especially in the first chapter of them saying, like, oh, we don't know what this thing is. Oh, that's the moon. It's what the Beastmen thought it used to be in the sky. It's a second orb, like the sun, but it's not the sun. And, yeah, then boom, out of nowhere. Dragon dead. Never mentioned again. But it's like, the idea of the moon is so out of hand for people. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Another orb in the sky that reflects the sun's light. Fucking cuckoo crazy motherfuckers over here.
Comes out of nowhere. This does not mean that plot twists should be expected, as they are often most effective when accompanied by shifts in tone. However, if this shift isn't foreshadowed, then the event itself that changes the tone can feel disconnected from the story beforehand. Foreshadowing tonal shifts also creates a sense of intrigue for the reader, as they anticipate that important coming event. This can add suspense to parts of the story that feel less intense. And thirdly, satisfying payoffs. It's always interesting to find creative foreshadowing that builds theme or character, and there's nothing wrong with that. But which events you need to foreshadow for a good story is a whole other, more difficult question. But fundamentally, foreshadowing is not just giving information to the reader. Across all of the types, and whether used for tone or narrative structure, foreshadowing is needed to make unexpected events believable.
For instance, with the Viceroy. You're asking questions the entire time about the Viceroy, and when the Viceroy finally reveals himself, you go like, how did I not see it? He literally has all the signs. How did I not see it? Thought he was just a demented old man who had like his moments of genius, but no. What the fuck? Same with like Tryhard Monster Hunter GU. True Valiant Boy. And like with the Beastmen and the people hating the Beastmen at the very beginning and during the inauguration shows how people view the Beastmen in the tree. So when the Beastmen become their ultimate enemy and they've already put their security in the Adventurers Guild and the Adventurers Guild fails that, then they are now looking back towards the Monarch and saying, okay, well, you know, we want the Adventurers out. Monarch said, it is what it is. You started at 8:55 a.m. the stream. I was here at 9. Never be so earlier. I'm pretty sure I started the stream, Valiant Boy, like exactly the same time I always do, which is 12:30. So I don't know where you got 8:55 from. You were here very early in the stream though. Like I was not expecting that. I'm glad. Because usually you're only here after like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Because I understand the not
For me because
getting
in
up.
France, bro.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, but like, shouldn't it be... Like, what time is it for you right now, Valiant Boy? Isn't it 11 o'clock right now? Or is it 9 o'clock right? 10. Okay. So I was like right between. Yeah. So I started at 8:30. For me, it's 2 a.m. It's 8 hours. It was 7 hours, but now it's 8 hours because daylight savings ended. Yes. Yes. Viceroy's betrayal can be anticipated through his personality. 6 to 8 hours. 6 or 8. True. The in chapter 3 when Husai meets his ancestors. Foreshadowing meeting the warriors of light and Gaia herself. What else? Infighting with the Beastmen culminates to the adherence to Fafnir in defeat of Garuda. So these are all like the satisfying payoffs, right? It's like when you meet the Warriors of Light finally,
I vote to get this
when you
MF
find
bot
out
fired.
about the tablet finally, when you meet Gaia finally, when you meet Fafnir finally, it's like all of these points that have been building up now end in this grand junction of exquisite as an exquisite spectacle. There we go.
Satisfying payoff means the reader feels the resolution to the problem was set up in a way that makes sense. This also means that the more important the event, the more it needs to be foreshadowed beforehand throughout the story.
Yeah.
Pre-scenes are often
Bro,
used
you
to
know
make
I got a
tonal shifts
highlight about
believable.
my watch time on Earthstream, etc.
True, Valiant Boy. You know how to
The
set it
regular
up.
action is often used to make the reveal of a murderer believable. Symbolism is often used to make the climaxes at the end of an act believable.
The prestige.
57,000 words I think in on month.
Yeah, if you have not watched The Prestige,
That's crazy, brew.
watch The Prestige with Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. It is so fucking good. The back and forth. Oh my god. It makes me want to download and watch it tonight after the stream. Oh,
And
that'd be
irregular
great.
descriptions of an object are often used to make how a character solves a problem with that object later on believable. So what have we discussed about foreshadowing? 1. There are any number of
Bro,
ways
I
to
have
foreshadow.
Discord. What's their
Preceding,
Discord?
symbolism, Chekhov's
I need to do that command. I should do that command right fucking now. Because I don't know why I don't have that command.
Yeah, I try Twitch bot commands. I struggle XD.
It's okay, I got this. Can I not do this? Can I take this? And do this? Hold on 1 second. Okay. See if that works. Okay. They're set up now. I should open Discord, actually.
I forgot to tell you.
Tell me what? That you got Discord? True. Okay, here we go.
guns, irregular description, irregular action,
True.
prophecy, and many
True.
more. They each have their strengths. 2. Foreshadowing can help to establish narrative structure by setting up the expectations of where the tension will arise in the future. It becomes connective tissue between the first, second, and third acts. 3. Foreshadowing can help establish tone and create intrigue and suspense during less dramatic moments in the story. And 4. While there are plenty of places foreshadowing works well, it is only needed to make unexpected events believable, whether it be
True.
tonal shifts, plot twists, character changes, or climatic resolutions. But that...
Oh, I forgot plays, too. Plays are going to be a huge foreshadowing. Because the moon being pulled out of the sky is the weapon they use for that is the weapon they're going to use in order to basically end anima at the end of the day. So it's like the emerald weapon and the diamond weapon and shit like that are literally Chekhov's gun.
That is all from me. If you'd like to support our Supreme Leader Mishka and join the Mishkarian Legion, where we serve faithfully, loyally, artistically, and for life, then there is a link to that in the description for just a couple of dollars per month. Question of the day: how did you creatively foreshadow something in your story? Let me know down in the comments below. In the meantime, I'd love for you to come follow me over on Twitter or Facebook or email my stuff that you made address and links in the description below. Stay nerdy,
We
stay
will
curious,
can talk
and
here
we'll
in my
see
voice and my face
the
brew.